attend. Ladies,
Hello.
who's here?
Hello, how are you? Nice to see you.
Hey, I'm Andrea Brickley.
Pleasure seeing you.
You too.
I'm Walter Kase, what's left of him.
Alright, cool.
I'm Will Madison.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, sir.
So you're going to be with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Alright, do you want to come look at them?
Sure. You have taken this butterfly project a step forward. All the other schools just do little cutouts, you know, just the easy thing. This is artwork. This is love.
Yeah, it's actually what we thought of the poem ourselves. Like, some people got the same poem, but like what you did is you made the butterfly according to what you felt. Like, you made the butterfly out of the colors you felt when you read the poem. So if it was if it was like a happy poem, you would make it out of like yellows or oranges or whatever you saw when you read the poem.
Yeah, no two butterflies are alike. As you can see, they're all on our own perspective. We all put in what we truly felt about the poems and what we saw. If it was anything we saw, the colors represent what we believed to be what they were trying to put out, the message to us inside the poems.
For the poems, each person got assigned a child, and they would write about what the journey the child went through.
This is very apropos with the tsunami. Whose is this?
There should be a name either on the back or
See if we can find out.
her name is Daniela Santillan.
Very appropriate. This poem touches me because I cry all the time. I have gone to a speech therapist, to a priest, to a rabbi, to a voice teacher, to teach me how to give my talk without crying. My wife gets very upset when I cry and talk. But she's not in my shoes, so she cannot understand why so much depth. But this connects with me. I am Jewish. When I was a little boy in Poland, we lived in a neighborhood which was a mixed neighborhood, not just Jewish people. I used to be a little boy that liked to play soccer. Other neighbor boys would knock on my parents' door and say, "Can Walter come out and play?" And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they played soccer with me. Sunday they would go to church, and in church they were taught the Jews killed Jesus Christ. And when I would go out to play with them, they would beat the daylights out of me every single weekend. I was their friend, then they would get influenced, and then they would beat me. How do you explain that?
Actually, my poem that I wrote.
Your poem?
For the girl I like, her name is Olympia. And she was only 5 years old when she was taken away. So really hurtful.
It's amazing that we go to school with other children. You get along in school, don't you? Adults can't get along. They pass on. We learn hate and prejudice at home. That's bad. Many times you are at home, you hear your parent say such and so is a no good, such and such. That shouldn't be. I had a little sister who was 8 years old when we were in the ghetto. Can you hear me?
I can.
You will have a good mic on me, yes? Because my voice is shot. Too many speeches. And when we were in the ghetto, the Nazis decided to liquidate the ghetto. They lined up all children under the age of 12, shot them right in front of my eyes and my parents' eyes. Here I have a little sister, 8 years old, killed for absolutely no reason.
I would like to begin our program this morning by saying a heartfelt thank you to your language arts teachers who have made this event possible because of their belief that great lessons can be learned through the studies of the Holocaust. I know you have experienced weeks of learning about the Holocaust. You've watched videos of the horrific time period in Nazi Germany. As I look around, I see your handwork, the beautiful butterflies you have created, your poems, and other projects around campus. Students, I hope you have truly learned from these activities and used it as an opportunity to reflect on your learning and apply it to your own personal lives on a daily basis. Today, you will have another opportunity to take that learning to an even deeper personal level. Today is a very special day to be an 8th grade Hamilton Tiger. In keeping with our Hamilton tradition, based on a strong foundation of our beliefs as a school community, one that communicates recognition and acceptance of individual qualities, cultural diversity, respect, tolerance for one another, and most importantly, love and kindness. We have a very special guest here with us today. You will have the opportunity, like other 8th graders who have come before you, and the great honor and privilege to hear the life story of a true humanitarian. A story of triumph over many of life's challenges and adversity, most of which he experienced as a teenager growing up in Nazi Germany during the Holocaust. 8th graders, it is with great pleasure and much respect that I present to you a friend of a Hamilton Middle School and an inspiration to all of us, Mr. Walter Kase.
Good morning. How are you? I feel honored, privileged to be again at Hamilton. This is my home away from home. Walter Kase Commons. I would come here anyhow if you didn't ask me to speak, just to look at my name above my head. My name is Walter Kase. I am an 82-year-old survivor of the Holocaust, and I'm going to have the privilege of talking to you about my life in the Holocaust. Before I tell you about my life in the Holocaust, I want you to please listen carefully to what I am about to say, because everything I will be talking about evolves in the next few sentences. None of us have a choice in who we are. Who we are is God's choice. God decides on the color of our skin, God decides on our religion, and God decides on our nationality. So to be mean, to be hateful, to be disrespectful to people whom God chose to make different than we are, is sinful, it is ungodly, and it leads to horrible tragedies like the Holocaust, where, because of one man's desire to create a master race, I'm talking about Adolf Hitler, the bully of the 20th century. Adolf Hitler wanted to create a master race, and in this master race, there was no room for me and my family. My misfortune was that I was born to a very kind, loving, respected Jewish family. And just this accident of birth, I am saying accident of birth because who we are is just an accident, was enough for them to annihilate my entire family. I want you to know that when I was in the camps and in ghetto, I was your age. Let me now begin to tell you the story of my life. There are so many things running through my mind that I don't know where to start and where to leave off. To me, the Holocaust started on September 1st, 1939. That was the day that Germany declared war against Poland. And only 6 days later, when we woke up in the morning, German tanks and German troops were occupying my hometown. A few days after the occupation, I'll stand up. A few days after the occupation, the Nazis made a declaration that all people of the Jewish faith have to wear a yellow armband with the word Jew on it, or a star like you are wearing with the word Jew on it. This armband immediately destroyed the fabric of our lives. And it gave permission to everyone who was not wearing the armband to abuse us any way they wanted to. People had the right to beat us, take away our property, insult us, just make our lives as miserable as possible, purely because we were born to a Jewish family. About 6 weeks after the start of the Germans ordered us to wear these armbands, they made the declaration that all Jewish people have to live in a ghetto. Now, can I see a show of hands if you know what a ghetto is? In my case, the ghetto was a very most rundown part of the city, which the Nazis surrounded with electrified barbed wire. They stationed guards around the perimeter of the ghetto, and we had to move in there. In my case, my mother, my father, my little sister Risha, who was only 6 years old then, and a cousin of mine who was an orphan. The 5 of us and 13 other people, total strangers, we moved into this hovel of a place where we had to live. With the ghetto came a total process of dehumanization. There were no hospitals. If you got sick, they simply shot you. There were no houses of worship. There were no I am all shook up. I just had surgery on my back, and I am a little bit shaky right now. So if I slow down, please forgive me. With the ghetto came horrible things. Children under the age of 12 and elderly over the age of 65 were not issued any food stamps. It became an open season on anybody who was too young or too old. I have seen with these eyes German officers coming into the ghetto, and if they saw a parent with a little child, they would order the parent to hold the child above their head and shoot the child while it was in the arms of a mother or a father. The first time I saw this, I couldn't comprehend how something like this could happen, how people could do something like this. I have seen older people, men over the age of 65, ordered to dig their own graves, ordered to get into those graves on their hands and knees all the time, begging for salvation, begging for help, and they were shot while they were on their hands and knees pleading for their lives. The first time I saw this was just inconceivable, that people from Germany was a country that was very respected. They had created every kind of invention in Europe. These same people did these horrible things, taking children, taking elderly, and killing them in front of everyone's eyes. We lived in the ghetto about 2 years, and after the ghetto, the Nazis decided to liquidate the ghetto. We were all ordered out onto a very large field of assembly. The Nazis made an announcement that all children under the age of 12 and all elderly over the age of 65 should go to the left side of the field, everybody else at the right side. My father had a premonition that something tragic is about to happen. My father found 2 ordinary building bricks. He laid them down in front of me. He had me stand on the 2 bricks, which made me the height of an average person. Unfortunately, my little sister Risha was only 8 years old. She was hiding under my mother's coat. A Nazi officer came over. He tore open my mother's coat, and there, kneeling, holding on to my mother's leg, was my little sister, crying and pleading with my mother not to abandon her. I was crying and pleading with my mom and my dad not to abandon me. Imagine a parent having to make a decision which child they were going to abandon. The Germans said that the children and the elderly will be shipped to Germany to work on farms. And my father hoped that that was really the truth. And my parents took me to the left side, and my little sister went to the right side with the German officer. My little sister was crying and pleading and begging, and I was begging them to stay with me. My little sister was begging them to stay with her. My father really believed that what the German officer said, the children will have an easier life. They let my little sister go, and we went to the other side. As soon as they gathered all the elderly and all the children, They lined up machine guns, and there in front of God and everyone, they killed all the children and all the elderly. I have told this story hundreds of times. I have yet to believe that something like this could have happened. Many times I wake up in the middle of the night blaming myself for my little sister's death. Many times I think if I had gone to the left and she had gone to the right, that she would still be here living. It is terrible when someone you love, someone you respect, does something like this. I have yet to come to grips with myself for asking for my life at the expense of my little sisters. After they killed my little sister, we were emotionally and spiritually devastated. We were then led to a train station for shipment to a concentration camp. I am going to take a couple minutes to tell you what this train ride was like. They packed us, like maybe 200 people, to a cattle car, sitting between each other's legs. In the boxcar where I was, every single person lost someone they loved. We traveled 4 days and 4 nights, and during that time, we received nothing to eat, nothing to drink, but that wasn't the bad part. The bad part was that there was no place where you could go and relieve yourself. Imagine 200 people confined to a small space. Nobody able to go and do what people do every single day. In this boxcar, imagine the stench of it, the shame of it, the degradation of it. My father told my mother and me that surely wherever it is that we are going to certain death, because no one would treat a labor force the way we were treated. It became a relief that after 2 days, people started dying in this boxcar. And then became like a relief to those of us who were still living, because we had an opportunity to stack the dead bodies up against the side of the boxcar, strip them naked, take their clothing, rip it into rags, and use these rags to kind of clean ourselves off. After 4 days of this horrible trip, we arrived at a place called Auschwitz. When we arrived at Auschwitz, the boxcar doors were opened. There were Nazi officers there with whips and with guns. And the Nazi officer made an announcement that said, men to the left and women to the right. This instant separation from my mother has had an indelible impact on my life, because I hadn't even had a chance to say goodbye to my mom. Imagine being separated from your mother, not knowing what was going to happen to her, what was going to happen to you. Here I am, an 82-year-old man. Every single day of my life, I remember this horrible separation from my mother. We were then marched to a camp. We were told to line up 6 abreast, strip totally naked, stand out there like this, naked. And a Nazi officer, a man whom the prisoners called the messenger of death, man told us to line up 6 abreast, and with his cane he would show some people to go to the left and some people to go to the right. It immediately became obvious that the younger, healthier-looking people were told to go to the left side and everybody else to the right side. My father again saved my life. My father managed for him and me to stand in the same row with 4 other men who were like lesser physical specimens than we were. The German officer told the 4 men to go to the left, and for him and me, my father and me, to go to the right. The 4 men who were on the left side of us were older. 2 of them had hernias. 2 of them were elderly, more starved looking than we were. My father and I survived this selection. We were taken to a place where they stripped us naked again. They tattooed numbers on our arms. They shaved us, shaved our head, shaved our pubic hair. And we were told that we are going to work in a clothing depot. I am going to tell you something which I never talked about prior to 9/11. But since 9/11, children have discovered that human beings can be very cruel. So I will tell you what it is that I had to do. I need a small young man. Maybe you, come here. Just imagine what you mean.
Well,
Tell him.
Will Mattinson?
Just imagine that that's me. We were in a camp where we were given wire cutters and little pails of soapy water, and it was our job to walk among the dead people, open their mouth if someone had gold or silver teeth, to tear out their teeth. If someone wore a piece of jewelry that couldn't be removed with this wire, with the soapy water, we had to cut off the dead people's fingers. Thank you. Imagine being a child and having to do something like this. Every single day, I saw hundreds upon hundreds of people killed in the most horrible ways. And always there was starvation. After 8 weeks in Auschwitz, my father and I were shipped to a place called Sosnowitz, where everybody was working in a clothing depot. When we arrived to Sosnowitz, which was this clothing depot destination, we were told a German officer made an announcement that children and elderly should walk forward. Well, I was not going to step forward, because any time you would be separated from someone that you loved, or signaled out for a special job or special event, you would never live till the end of the day. My father again saved my life. He told me to volunteer, which I did. I stepped forward, and that became like a blessing, because I was chosen to be a potato peeler in a kitchen. Being a potato peeler was like the most wonderful job that you could have, because you could eat the things that you were peeling. My father worked in a clothing factory over there. Every single day, he would go to work starving and come back starving. And I knew that if I didn't do something to help my father stay alive, that they would going to kill him, because every morning they would pull out all the people who were very emaciated, shoot them, and bring in replacements for their lives. So I devised kind of a special way of keeping my father alive. I worked in a kitchen peeling potatoes, and I would grate the potatoes like you grate potatoes to make potato paste for pancakes. And I would put this paste into the napkin, squeeze the water out of the potato paste, and wrap this potato paste around my body. And then I would give this potato paste to my father. My father would wrap it around his body, take it to the camp, put it on a shovel, stick the shovel into the oven, and he would have like a potato pancake. And every single day, my father and I would risk our lives trying to stay alive by taking this potato paste into the camp. In September of 1945, as Germany was beginning to lose the war, Hitler decided to accelerate what they called the final solution. The final solution being the killing of all the Jewish people in all the countries that Germany occupied. We were taken to a place called Mauthausen. Mauthausen was indescribable. Thousands of people would starve to death every single day, beaten to death, frozen to death. Everything horrible was culminating with starvation. So today, when you go home and your mom gives you something to eat that you don't necessarily love, think about me. Think what I had to do to survive. Don't complain about the food that your mom and dad are giving you. And always tell your parents that you love them. In September of 1945, as we were on the doorstep of death, a Nazi officer made an announcement which sounded like a voice from heaven. The Nazi officer said that Germany is losing the war and that soon we will be liberated by the American army. We did not believe it. We thought that this was just a story that they were telling us to keep us alive, and then they'll just shoot us whenever they want to. But we did see German guards climbing down from the towers, taking off their civilian clothes, taking off their clothing, putting on civilian clothing, and running away into the forest. And after not seeing any guards for a while, myself and a group of other boys my age, we broke through the fence. We tore the fence down, and we walked into a warehouse, and it was incomprehensible what we saw. In this warehouse, thousands of people were dying of starvation, and yet every place you looked, there was food. Like a wild beast, I ran up to the first item of food, which was a little bucket of marmalade. I tore off the lid. I started pouring this marmalade into my mouth. Like a wild person, I had this marmalade all over my face, all over my uniform. I quickly went back to the camp. I fed my father a little bit of the food. And my father said that we must do something to make ourselves visible to the American liberators. We, with the help of other boys my age, we dragged my father like a sack of potatoes. My father was so weak, he couldn't put one foot in front of the other. We walked out of the camp, and we walked about a mile, and we came to a highway, and it was a very eerie day. Didn't see any people at all, just our little group of little survivor boys and my father laying on the highway and hoping that something good is going to happen to us. I want you to know that I was then 15 years old. I weighed 64 pounds. I had pyorrhea, which is a disease of the gums. My teeth were loose. My teeth were loose. I had boils all over my face, under my arms. I had the worst case of athlete's feet that you can imagine. I was ready to die. We lay there on the side of the road for about 2 hours, and after 2 hours, we started hearing the rumblings of tanks, and when the tanks got closer, we saw the American flag on the lead tank, and when the tank came very close, I walked out into the highway with my arms stretched, and the lead tank came closer, and a very young American soldier jumped off the tank. He looked at me, he started crying, and out of his pocket, he pulled out a Hershey candy bar, and he gave it to me. Nothing I have eaten in 5 years could compare to the first bite of this Hershey candy bar, which I shared with my father. The American soldier was crying. He looked at us and he said, "Oh my God, how can human beings do such horrible things to other human beings?" Through an interpreter, I asked an American captain to help me save my father's life, because my father was disintegrating before my eyes. And when you see someone you love, someone who made sacrifices to save you, get into this condition, you will do anything to save his life. The American captain told me that he'll send an American ambulance to help my father and me, that they will take us to the hospital. And about an hour later, an American ambulance came. They took my father and me to a hospital in Austria. This was a hospital run by nuns. These nuns were extremely kind. They bathed us, they cleaned us, they washed us. And after 2 or 3 hours in this hospital, my father and I were like human beings. We were washed, we were cleaned, we were given penicillin, and we were free. My father told me that I am going to live in a panacea being a paradise. My father said that when mankind sees what hate, what prejudice do to other people, my father said that I am going to live in a paradise. The worst thing happened to me 2 weeks later, when I woke up in the morning and I reached out to touch my father's hand. My father was dead. And losing my father after 5 years of agony, 5 years of a relationship which I couldn't have survived without, I felt that I was abandoned by man and abandoned by God. I stayed in the hospital for 3 months, and over the period of 3 months I evolved from an animal into a human being. The rest of my story is kind of a wonderful American story. I had the good fortune of finding my mother. My mother survived, but my mother was never again the same human being that she used to be before. Every time my mother would look at me, she would cry because I looked so much like my father. And my mother died of heart failure a short period after the liberation. My life has been wonderful. I had the good fortune. Well, let me step back. God rewarded me for my agony that I went through by giving me a most wonderful wife a man can have. My wife loves me. She embraces me. She dresses me up every morning and sends me out to change the world one person at a time. And here I am. The rest of my story is wonderful. I have 4 wonderful children. I have 2 wonderful grandchildren. They are all college graduates, good citizens. As for myself, I had an education. I was fortunate to be brought to the United States by a charitable organization organized by Eleanor Roosevelt. Eleanor Roosevelt was instrumental in creating an organization called the United States Children's Committee. This was an organization of affluent people who decided that they would bring 400 children, survivors of the Holocaust, to the United States and give us a leg up in a better life in the United States. This is my story. I hope that today you will go home, that you will tell your mom you love her, tell your dad you love him, and that you will tell my story to everyone you know and to everyone you meet. Because the Holocaust could happen again, and we never want anything like this happening again. I want to thank you for being such an attentive audience. I am not at my best today. I've had surgery 2 weeks ago on my back. I am still in pain, but I made a commitment to Hamilton to be here. So I gave you the best I have, which is not as what I usually do. I do better. I want to thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you.
In the fall of 1994, while on a tour of Eastern Europe, I spent a day at the site of the Nazi concentration camp in Auschwitz, Poland. Even though I had studied the history and knew the facts, I was unprepared for the strong feelings I experienced there. I was especially moved by the pictures lining the walls of one of the former dormitories, pictures of young women and teenage boys and girls who died there. The pictures looked like my students, young people with their lives still in front of them. But these young people had no chance to see their future. I was haunted by the picture of one especially beautiful young girl. And in the days which followed, as I thought about the things she might have enjoyed and the life which was cruelly taken from her, the words in music for When I Am Silent evolved. This song is dedicated to this girl and all young people everywhere whose lives are taken unjustly. Sing it for them, Joan C. Varner. We ask that you do not applaud after we are done as a sign of respect to Mr. Kase and all Holocaust victims and survivors.
Ooh. Here's a gift I would like to give to you out of our appreciation for everything you've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to answer any questions?
Can I say something?
Questions? Would you like to, can people ask questions?
I want to say something.
Okay.
I want to say something. This is primarily said to the men here. You notice the music, the choir, everything nice, everything worth living for, women do for us, for men. This is why I think I have a secret how we should change the world into a better place. And here is the secret. I think that every president of every country in the world should be a woman. Do I get a hand or what? I firmly believe that women, the half of mankind that bring life into the world, that women wouldn't allow for a war to happen if their husbands or children would be in danger. So girls, if you are ready to run for president, do it now so I can vote for you. That's about all I wanted to say. God bless you.
What are the names of your parents?
The names of my parents, my mother's name was Eva, and my father's name was Harry. And my little sister's name was Risha, same name as my daughter's name right now. Yes, speak loud, please.
During and after the Holocaust, was it hard to stay faithful?
What did it
See?
During and after the Holocaust, was it hard to stay faithful?
There was a period of time in my life where I lost faith. When you see everyone you love killed before your eyes, when you see people starving every single day, when you see trainloads of people arriving, and at the end of the day, you are pulling their teeth out because they are dead, it kind of shakes your faith. I have faith in God because when I got married, my wife and I decided that we are going to have children. My wife said that our children must have God in their lives. So because I was encouraged by my wife, I embraced God again. That's my story. Anybody else? Yes.
Did you or any of your friends from the Holocaust, did they try to plan to escape, or did y'all try to escape? What happened?
Didn't you or any of your friends try to escape during the Holocaust?
You know, when you go to the movies, you see people with sticks winning the war against people with machine guns. In real life, it doesn't work like this. In real life, if you don't have the means to fight somebody with weapons, you get killed. So very few people escaped. It didn't work. Yes.
Did you have any idea that like you were gonna survive? Like, did you have the feeling that you were gonna survive and like go on and like be a better person like from that experience?
Did you believe you were going to survive it during the time?
Yes, I did hope that I was going to survive.
But, like, did you have like a feeling? Like, did you get like an intuition kind of? Like, did you know, like, have an inside feeling that you were going to survive? That you were
No,
gonna
I just had hope that I was going to survive. Nothing magical was going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Is Kase your original last name?
Is Kase?
No, my real name before I came to the United States was Władysław Kasrylewicz. When I came to the States, I had a guardian, and this guardian told me that if I keep this name, my children will hate me. So I changed my name so it'll be easier for them to pronounce their names.
Did you meet your wife in the U.S.?
Absolutely yes.
What's her name?
Chris.
That's such a beautiful name.
She's a beautiful lady. But I deserve beautiful after all the stuff I went through.
Did the group of boys that you were friends with, did you know if they survived or?
What would my name would have been?
No. The group of boys you were with, do you know if they survived?
I don't know.
I was wondering what happened to your cousin.
Your cousin? What happened to him?
My cousin was liberated in Sweden in exchange for German soldiers, and she died shortly after the liberation.
What was her name?
Dzia.
That's a really pretty name.
Well, Dzia in Polish means a beautiful baby. And she was an attractive little girl. Anything else I can say to you?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
If you could say one thing to your little sister, what would it be?
If you could say one thing to your sister, what would it be?
Forgive me. That's what I would say. Forgive me for trying to stay alive, and you had to give up yours.
What do you think when you see that tattoo on your arm every day?
I think that this is a victory. Hitler is dead, I am alive. I get to meet wonderful people like you here at school. I have a wonderful wife. I have good children. I have won the war.
Can I see it?
Can he see it?
Can you see it? When we are done, I'll show it to you.
Would you say that after the Holocaust, did you still pray to God?
Did you still pray for God after the Holocaust happened?
I started believing after I got married.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
Who else was taken to the concentration camps?
Who else was taken to the concentration camps with you?
Who else was taken?
Besides Jewish people?
Besides Jewish people, gypsies, Jehovah's Witnesses, homosexuals, Slavs.
Thank you. Did you ever feel ashamed to be Jewish during the Holocaust?
Did you feel ashamed to be Jewish during the Holocaust?
I didn't feel ashamed because I didn't choose my life. God chose it. So.
Thank you. All right. So what would happen if you were like a quarter Jewish, or if you were like half? Like, would you still be taken to the camp?
What would happen if you weren't completely Jewish?
If I was born well, I was born completely Jewish.
Yeah, no, but like if it was someone else.
Like if anyone else during that time was not completely Jewish, would they still be taken?
They would, if they were 4 generations, you had to be Aryan.
Why do you think that the country let one person change everything?
Why do you think that Germany let one man change the entire country?
Well, Germany lost the Second World War. And they were looking to a leader that'll take them out of an economic slump and give them a better way of life. And at the beginning, that's what Hitler was trying to do. But then he decided that he can do it faster by confiscating all the property the Jews had and just degrading this people, Jewish people.
When your mother died, how long did it take for you to get back on your feet and how?
A long time. Long time.
Like, whenever you found out that food, was it hard not to just eat it all yourself and not?
No, this was a warehouse full of food. I just brought some food for my father and for me to give us strength to walk out of the camp.
When you were in the concentration camp, did you ever feel angry or blame the German soldiers? I mean, how did you feel toward them? Did you want to kill them?
The German soldiers, we were so starved, so destroyed practically, that we didn't think about revenge. We just thought about getting some food and medical care to restore our lives.
Like, do you have any like pictures or anything of your mom or your dad or your sister to
have any pictures of your parents or your sister?
I have a photo of my little sister, which is too long a story to tell you how it came about, but I do have a photo of my little sister. And I have a photo of my father. My father's brother left Poland in 1935 and moved to Brazil. He is the only brother of 11 children that survived the war. And after the war, my wife wrote a letter to the American Red Cross in Brazil, and I got a photo from my uncle.
Nothing for your mom or anything then?
No.
Thank you. Would you ever do like anything different while you were like during the Holocaust? Would you change anything you did?
Would you do anything different during the Holocaust? Like anything?
I don't know what it would be.
Thank you.
What do you think your parents would say if they were here right now?
What do you think your parents would say if they were here right now?
Well, my parents would be proud of what I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Kase, your inspiring message of strength and hope is a blessing to all of us. This is not just the culmination of a unit today. This is a beginning of a new outlook on life. Please join me in thanking Mr. Kase for sharing his story with us.
This was my name. They didn't call you by name. You had no name. Your number was your name.
What does it say?
B479.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's the
Here he is.
one who wanted to see it.
B479. You were not called Ruth or Moses or Walter. You were called by name.
How'd they put it on?
With regular ink and pen. Just no, what?
Stabbing your arm?
Stabbing the arm, yes.
When did you start believing in Jesus?
After
In
you.
God?
Well, I believe in God. When did I start? When I came to the United States and my wife wanted to have children, and we decided that's when I evolved.
Thank you.
I think they will see it.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
I'm Jewish too, and I just want to thank you so much. It's really inspiring.
Big hug.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
not giving you a hug.
This young lady is very special to me. She just lost her mom recently. But she's been just a great girl through it. Okay? She needs an extra special hug. Okay?
I need to see Mary Ann.
Yeah.
Mary, Clayton Nugent.
Thank you so much for coming and visiting us.
Thank you. Stay well.
You know you are my hero, and you had back surgery. Thank you for coming.